I went to go see Scream 6 on Thursday. I was so excited to see this movie. Shout out to Paramount because they hyped this film up. And I have to say, they definitely knew they had a good one on their hands because I have to say, this is the first Scream movie since Scream 2 that I overly enjoyed and had a good time at the theater watching. I'll even rank the movies at the end to let you know which place that I want to put them in. But for the most part, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I loved it. Um, so I went after work. I went and worked out a little bit. I was trying to see how I could fit all that in. The gym schedule, all that stuff, because it was the 7 o'clock show. I went over on 84th Street to go see the film. They had the nice big reclining chairs and everything, so I had a really good time. So yeah, I went to go see it. And I have to say, yeah, I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I don't know, I did, and then as soon as I came home, I did do a little, excuse me, I did do a small little straight out the theater review. I know a lot of people do their straight out of theater reviews where they want to do it straight out the theater. I was like, I'm a cheat. I'm not gonna do something while I'm walking down the street to the movie theater giving my thing. Because then I tried it. Okay, no, I'm not gonna lie. I tried doing it that way, but it looked like I was cross-eyed. Like I had the Andy Cohen wonky eye. I wasn't looking directly at the camera. The camera was, I'm trying to hold it here, and this is like my eyes everywhere, but looking at the camera, I looked like I wasn't even looking at it, like I was acting. So I was like, this looks a mess. I don't like the lighting. It's too dark outside. I'm thinking Ghostface will get my ass because, first of all, it took place in New York. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just wait till I get home. I'm going to do the green screen background. I'm going to get the ring light. I'm going to do a whole production. And then, so I did it with TikTok because, TikTok, you could do the whole production with it. So I gave a little quick review, and I was going to do a whole spoiler review because I said, you know what? I want to give everybody an opportunity to see this film first before I come out and give my opinion. And I have to say, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I had a great time with the film. Is it perfect? No. But I thoroughly enjoyed the film. I had a great time at the theater. I was laughing. I was screaming. Well, I didn't scream, but I was like, pun intended. But I was deeply in the film, and when I watch these type of movies, I really want to get into it because it's like, to me, it's like this, and it kind of felt like it was almost like, the core four, which would be Tara, Sam, Chad, and Mindy. They're like the Scooby Gang. Similar to remember when Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they had the little Scooby Gang. It was giving very that. So it's like you got the meta horror stuff, and then you have the little group of friends, and then you got the stuff going on, and you're trying to solve the mystery, who could be the killer, and all this other stuff. So that's what I like. But before we jump into all of that, I have to also say this was the best opening kill that I've seen in a long time. Very strong opening. I absolutely love this opening. This was top notch. So I have to say this is my third favorite opening kill. What I was so upset about was the fact that the opening kill was Samara Weaving. And I love Samara Weaving. She was in Ready or Not, and she's got like Final Girl vibes. But they already had their Final Girls. So unfortunately, she could be a Final Girl. But I got it that they used her as the opening kill, which I kind of sensed she was going to be. The more I started seeing of the previews and things, I was like, she gonna die in the beginning. And she did. But I like the setup. So basically, Samara Weaving plays, she was in Ready or Not. And Ready or Not, and for those you don't know, was directed by Radio Silence, who also directed Scream 5 and the current one. So they're gonna, I love when directors use their favorite actors in prior films and they bring them in. A lot of directors do that. So I love the fact that they did that with this one. So Samara Weaving's out on a blind date. So she's waiting at the bar. She's had a couple of drinks. She gets a phone call. The guy who's calling her, I was like, oh, I just love the way this is going. So she's like on the phone. He's like, he's texting her back and forth. I'm lost. Can I call you? And then they're having this conversation. And so she's giving him directions on how to get to the restaurant. And so they're having the conversation. And then they get into kind of like her background and profession. She's a professor who, made us in slasher films. So she talks about like horror movies, slasher films, and that and the third. And so they have this conversation. He's like, what does the building look like? So she goes out, she leaves and goes out. I said, child, don't go outside because I already know what this is. I already knew she was on the phone with Ghostface. Because that's pretty much how they always set it up. It's like, okay, it's a regular phone call. It's just a regular voice. And then it's going to become it's going to turn out as Ghostface. So She goes outside. He's like, "Oh, I'm lost. Somebody's chasing me. I think he's got a knife." And then she's like, "I don't see you." So she's running in the alleyway, and he tricks her, and all of a sudden the Ghostface voice comes on. Ghostface kills her. But the one thing I have to say about it, because I said this is gonna be some shit we ain't never seen before. What I loved about it was they revealed who the Ghostface was in the first 5 minutes of the movie. We have never seen that before. So that's what I love. And it turned out it was the dude from freaking Spider-Man. The one that played I forgot his damn name. It's Tony something in real life. But he played basically I think it was Flash. I think that's what he played. And he was trying to be Peter's friend in the last movie, and Peter was like, "We know really friends or whatever." So he was in, he's been in the Spider-Man movie. So he was the killer. Takes the stuff off. He's like, now I see red or something or another. So I liked all the little puns that they had Ghostface saying or whatever. So he takes the stuff off. He's dressed regularly, and we're starting to follow Ghostface. And then I was like, okay, so now if we're following him, that means he's about to die. Because I was like, I'm sitting there like, as a survivor, it's like, this is something that as a writer, I'm starting to see it all unfold. So he gets home, he gets a phone call. I was like, okay, so now Ghostface is calling him. He's thinking it's his friend. So the whole thing was him and his friend were friends, I guess. Richie had did a movie who was in the last film. He was making like this little scary movie. They were going to bring Tara and Sam into it and finish the film. And so they had this plan of killing them off. But this Ghostface was like, oh no, I got other plans for these broads. So they're like, we're supposed to finish our movie. He's like, who gives a fuck about movies? And then winds up killing him. So it's like, oh, but I love also the part where it's like, oh, you're getting, you don't want to play a game. You got to find where I'm at. So thinking like it's his partner, because of course, when Scream movies, they always got a partner. So it's like they're walking, and this idea, he's looking around the apartment, and he's like, oh, you're getting hot. So then when he was cold in some parts, then he's getting hot in other parts. So then it's like, is he in the fridge? Ghostface hot in the fridge? We opened the fridge, and this was a callback because I remember I was seeing like there was a promo or something online, and there was a part where Jenna Ortega was hiding in the refrigerator with a phone, and I'm like, so that's where they kind of got that from, because there's a scene of somebody being in the refrigerator in the movie. Come to find out that his partner in serial killer crime, was cut up in the refrigerator. So then Ghostface, of course, appears behind him and stabs him, and the guts is coming out. So I live for all the gore and all the other stuff. I'm not going to go a whole play-by-play because we'll be here all damn day, and I ain't doing this whole show on no damn screen. So that opening kill was awesome because it's something we haven't seen in a while. So I'm like, oh, I am ready for this little trip that we're about to go on. We're about to go on this roller coaster ride. So I was locked in from that opening. Then I also love the fact that we saw Sam go into therapy, and her therapist was played by Kittredge from the freaking Mission Impossible movie. He was in the first one. I believe he's about to be in. I was looking at his face. I'm like, why do I know this guy? Then all of a sudden I looked it up, and it's like, oh, it's the dude that played Kittredge from the Mission Impossible movies. He's going to be in Dead Reckoning, because I remember seeing him in that other one. So he plays her therapist. She's going to therapy, getting her life together, and trying to figure out like how to deal with this dark passenger, because we all know her father is Billy Loomis. So there was a bit of that. So I like that idea of her going to therapy, but the therapist was scared of her because she was talking about how she killed Richie in the last one, and then all of a sudden, she is like, I kind of liked it. So it's kind of played into this whole Dexter territory, where it's like, do I follow down this path of the dark passenger that I have inside of me? Is it hereditary? Can your parent be a serial killer and that shit passes down to the kid? So that was kind of like that overall theory and that vibe and that thought from that. And I like that. Also, I love the fact that on the other part, because Tara went to college in New York. Her, Mindy, and Chad all went to college in New York. Sam followed Tara to New York. Tara was out here being a hoe. She want to get in the bed with the nearest person. She's drinking. She's not dealing with the trauma from what happened to her in the last film, where she was stabbed multiple times, was nearly killed. She didn't deal with that trauma. And then I just love the juxtaposition of that, where it's like she hadn't dealt with her stuff. Sam's busy out here trying to watch over her sister and be the overprotector. And then I love the part where it was like Gail was like, "Well, where's your mother in this whole situation?" And basically said like because she told Tara about who her father was, because Mama was out here sleeping with the damn serial killer when he was dating Sydney. She disowned her, and then Tara disowned her mother for disowning Sam. So I did like that whole call to, you know what, you make your family wherever you go, which is what we in our community do, the LGBT community. So I love that. I also love the fact that Ghostface was meaner and more brutal in this film. Like he was not tripping over fucking chairs and stuff every now and again. Now he was getting the shit beat out of him at times, but for the most part, this Ghostface was meaner. He was brutal. I love the bodega scene. I've heard people call it a gas station. Child, we do not have those. We have gas stations in New York, but we have bodegas. That's that. If you're gonna do a call of New York, it's a bodega. So that's what that scene was when Ghostface appeared out of nowhere from the college and was chasing down the street, and they go in the bodega trying to seek help, and he grabs a shotgun and shoots the damn the store owner, and he's stabbing people. Like this motherfucker didn't care, and that's what I live for. The fact that this guy was just brutal, and the kills were aplenty. I also love seeing Kirby Reed come back. You know, I love me some Hayden Panettiere. I lived for her ever since she was on One Life to Live back in the day. That's like the same thing when people always talk about Bakari. I live for him. You know, they always like to say Friday Night Lights. Child, he was on All My Children. Y'all didn't stop with that. Y'all not going to just skip right to the Friday Night Lights and The Wire. He started out on, well, he probably started on other shit, but we mostly know him from All My Children. Jackson Montgomery's adopted son. Y'all tried it. Don't sleep on the soaps. But anyway, so I live for Kirby being in the show, you know, back. She was an FBI agent. Did I kind of buy that she was giving FBI agent vibes? Not really. But I was like, I'm going to just go with it. It's a movie. I did love her conversation with Tara at the theater, where Tara asked her, well, so how did you want to come out in regards of, you know, when she was stabbed and left for dead in Scream 4, she had that near-death experience. She said she died for a couple of minutes, and when she came back, she wanted to show, like, I'm a fighter, like, I'm not going to go down without a fight, that I'm basically going to, you know, that's why she became an FBI agent. So I love that, because there's people who you let it, you either become, like, the traumatic nut job drunk, like Jamie Lee Curtis in them recent Halloweens, when you get your strength back eventually, or you become a fighter. So I love that. And I also love the Kirby and Mindy movie trivia battle, how they were going back, like, what was their favorite scary movies back in the day? So was it, which Candyman you like, the original, the remake? They said both. I agree. Which Friday 13th is the best Friday 13th? When they said part 2 and the final chapter, I'm like, bitch, first of all, I live for part 2. Part 2, in my opinion, is way more fun than part 1. I know everybody loves part 1 because it's Pamela Voorhees, blah, blah, blah. And I do love that one. But part 2 was a much more fun, more brutal, more crazier Friday 13th. And I like Potato Sack Jason. I also love the final chapter because of Corey Feldman. Oh yeah, we'll get to the clips in a second. But because I'm almost done with this. Okay, so I love that the battle, because remember, Kirby was the film girl in Scream 4, and I liked her in Minnie's thing. I also loved in this film there was so many callbacks to Scream 2, where I think anybody mentioned this, but they mentioned, was Tara going to pledge for Omega Beta Zeta? Omega Beta Zeta was one of the sororities in Scream 2 that CC, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, CC Cooper, was a part of. And remember, she was Sober Girl. She got killed by Ghostface. So I did like those callbacks. I like the requel sequel rules. Was like more blood, more gore, beheadings. Everybody is up for death. Like even the legacy people. Like anybody could die at any moment. So I did love, you know, all of that. There was so many favorite scenes of mine in this film. I love the ladder scene. Because, you know, we had, oh my God, what's the guy's name? Josh Segarra. Oh my God, I think he is so hot. But Josh Segarra, who I know from, I don't know him from many of things, but I remember he was the baddie on Arrow. I don't remember which season, but I remember he was on Arrow. I loved him in this one. He was basically Sam's secret boyfriend, the neighbor. And during the scene where he's seeing, like, Quinn in her room with the boyfriend because she was the slutty roommate, and Ghostface standing over her where he's gonna kill her, and he's trying to call them in the other room because they having dinner, And then, basically the Ghostface stabbed up. Unfortunately, he done killed, excuse me. Oh my God, what the hell's her name? I'm like, forget. Mindy's girlfriend. We stabbed her in the stomach and then twisted it. There was a lot of that up in here. A lot of over the top stabbings. A lot of all that stuff. So I did like that. Like that scene with the ladder when he puts the ladder across in the room and they had to crawl from one out the window from one apartment to the other across the way, across the building or whatever with the ladder. I was on pins and needles with that part. Like that was an intense scene for me, but I loved it because it was like then it was shaking the ladder and this, that, and the third, and that was like one of my favorite scenes. Another favorite scene of mine was the chase sequence that rivals Scream 2 between Gail and Ghostface. I live at it. Oh, it's sidebar. Shout out to Gail for being down with the swirl. She had a black boyfriend in this damn movie. I was living for it. He was fine too, but unfortunately, he had to die. Like he basically just lasted like 5 damn minutes, not even. But that whole chase scene when Ghostface calls on the phone and started talking shit about Dewey and saying that you ain't shit, that you wish you was the final girl, or you was the number one, that Sydney was always number one and you were number two. I did kind of like that. There was that meanness, that shadiness from him. So I was living for that. Also, so that Gail chasing, and I thought she was gonna die. I was like, during that scene, he got some good licks and stabbed the amount of times he stabbed. I was like, no, they're gonna kill my girl. She did. I say, besides that part, she did feel a little shoehorned in though. Like there was really no reason for Gail to be there. Also, I should say, I was glad to see her. Also, I should say, one of the things that I do. I hate to say it, but I was not all that upset that Sydney wasn't in this movie. But I did love the fact of how they brought it up, like how they addressed it. They basically said that Sydney, once what had happened and all this other stuff, she deserves her happiness. She deserves her happy ending, basically. So she took her and Mark, as you know, was Patrick Dempsey in Scream 3. She ended up with him, and they wound up having kids and stuff off screen. So she wound up taking her family and trying to go away somewhere safe, and she wasn't as well. So I did like that explanation, and they left it open that if she wants to come back at any time. But at this point, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time that we just kind of build this new franchise with a whole new cast. Like I love Neve Campbell, but how many movies can we have with Neve Campbell where she's not? Where okay, she shows up, she gets stabbed a couple of times. We know they're not going to kill her off. She gives the live her happy ending for 1 year, and then she comes back and it's the same. It becomes the same cycle of the same thing, and it gets repetitive and it gets boring. I love Sydney. I love the character of Sydney, but this has been 25 years. She's been 25 plus years. She's been dealing with Ghostface. How many times you gonna be dealing with this man before you like enough is a damn enough? So I like that Radio Silence has figured out a way to, we bring in these new characters. We found a way to keep this Scream series alive. Much respect to the legacy people who carried the torch of this film, but let new blood and stuff come in. Okay, now my cons for this film, because I need to hurry and wrap this up. I already was going too damn long. My cons for this film, I have to say, it was falling a little bit in the Fast and the Furious territory. There were sequences where people were getting stabbed, and I'm like, how the fuck are they still alive? Chad got stabbed at least 50 damn times. How the hell that nigga survive? Well, maybe I should. Like, okay. How the hell did he live? They're like, we got another one. I'm like, okay, come on. And then it was like the scene with Mindy. Mindy got stabbed in the arm. I can understand that because she was bleeding out, and she was really selling that stab too. But the scene where she's on the one train, so they didn't mention what train it was, but I know what train it is because I take the one train to work every morning, or if I'm traveling, I always take the one train is close to me. So when you go on 72nd Street, 68, 96, I'm like, that's the one train. If you're going local from Harlem to wherever, that's the one train. So when they got separated and you had Ethan and Mindy on one train and everybody else on the other train, because she didn't get to get on the train. It was Halloween, and you had all the people with the different costumes on, and you had like multiple Ghostface on the thing, and then the lights going out, and you're seeing like Ghostface is staring dead at her because she's up against the little divide, the closing doors, not the doors where people coming in and out of, but the the door in between the cars. When you're going in between cars, she's standing up against it because she want to keep her eyes on stuff. But then the lights is going in and out on the train. Child, I was on pins and needles. And then Ghostface comes up to her, covers her mouth and stuff. You see it in the commercial, but the way they edited it made it look a little different. So that scene had me on pins and needles. Now to get to this damn ending, the reveal, I did not see it coming that we was going to have 3 Ghostface in this movie. Now, I did love the part that when they were at the place where, they had the shrine, the old movie theater, where they had the big shrine with all the different masks, where they basically had someone who was wearing all the masks from the original films. So it was like from the last one on down, and it was counting down to the original mask. Someone had gotten all the I love the fact that they had the theater with all the memorabilia from all the other movies, because that's a call into the whole serial killer thing. They had all those things. I love seeing all the callbacks and all the memorabilia to the old films, where they had all the different masks. They were leaving it at the crime scene. Now, I didn't mention this before, but there was a scene when I told you about the ladder sequence. So Quinn was actually killed in her room, and Ghostface basically just threw her on the floor. And then that's when everybody was trying to get up out of there. That's when Mindy got stabbed in the arm. Mindy's girlfriend got stabbed in the stomach, where she was bleeding out. And then she wound up dying, where she was on top of the ladder and she was too weak to go. And then Ghostface throws the knife into the thing, and he's shaking the ladder. And then she falls over. She falls off the ladder and hits her face on the damn thing on the way. I said, bitch, that was the most gross. That was the gnarliest kill. I lived for that kill, but that was brutal. But the reveal of the 3 killers, this is how I knew who the killer was. So Dermot Mulroney, who was the cop, Detective Bailey, I knew he was the killer. You wonder how I knew? There's a scene in the earlier part of the film where he's interrogating Tara and Sam. And Tara is like, he was like, where were you at the time of the situation? Because what's happening now is that someone had created this streaming thing. On Twitter, how like when people spread rumors about you and they're saying like, oh, she's the one that was out here lying and this idea, which is a call to kind of like where we are in our times now. So he basically was like, someone created this whole thread on social media saying that what happened was Sam actually was the one who did all the killings and framed Richie. So what happened in Scream 5 didn't really happen the way, that Sam said it happened. They're trying to say Richie was innocent and she was the damn killer because of who her father was, which wasn't the truth. So you had that one bitch who I was like, fuck that bitch up. But you can't be out here beating everybody else because you approved Mike. She threw the soda on her. It's like, you know what you did. So people believe these lies and things online. So this is how I knew it was Detective Bailey. When she told him, when they got called into the precinct, and we first see Kirby, he was like, where were you? She was like, Tara was at a frat party where I went to go meet her after, but I was at my therapist. Now, how shortly after the therapist ended up dead, getting stabbed in the face, and then you steal her file? So I'm like, somebody within the precinct or whatever had to have that information. So only very few people would have known that. And he went and called Ghostface and probably had, because he got to be the detective. He can't be at the crime scene. So he had to call who the Ghostface was, and I'm about to tell y'all who it is in a minute, and be like, go there, get that file, kill the therapist, whatever. So I also knew that it was Ethan, because Ethan was, they said in the beginning that it was like, oh, it's the shy, quiet kid. He was always disappearing when the shit was going down. So it was kind of like obvious that they were pointing to him. And, but then, of course, then he had to try to switch it up, because when he was on the scene with the train, because he was on the train, in the train car with Mindy, they were like, oh, it's impossible. He couldn't have stabbed her. So, but then when they revealed that it was Quinn, who was supposed to be dead, Quinn faked her death. Apparently, so Ethan was in the apartment dressed as Ghostface, in the room, killed Quinn's boyfriend, was standing over Quinn while she's in the bed on the phone. The boyfriend, who's seeing Sam, is looking through the window because he probably just killed him or whatever and was trying to set this whole shit up. He's the one that faked, because I'm sure what he probably did was take all the blood from the boyfriend that was in the tub and put it all over over his sister, because apparently they're related. So what it was that Detective Bailey, Quinn, and Ethan are actually related. Detective Bailey was the father. Quinn and Ethan were siblings. They apparently were siblings of Richie. So this was a callback to Scream 2, where, you know, Debbie Salt, who turned out to be Billy Loomis's mother, took revenge on Sydney for killing her son in the first movie, which is a callback to Friday the 13th, because, you know, Jason's mother killed everybody in part 1, then Jason all of a sudden comes back and kills, you know, the final girl in part 2. So overall, I did like that. So I did not see the Quinn thing coming. The third act kind of fell off for me, but overall, the movie was a fun ride. I love the fact that it felt like, you know, a slasher, was a murder mystery, the meta-media commentary, all the stuff that I love within the Scream thing. But here's the thing, and I love that it was a callback to Scream 2. We don't mention Scream 3 and the TV show were the weakest parts. But I have to say, if I was to rank these movies, it would be Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 6, Scream 4, Scream 5, and Scream 3 is all at the bottom. So if I was to go for best to worst, those are my choices. But overall,